Recently, I released a video about the 2024 Dream Game survey results and followed up with the first set of Dream Game ideas. Here is the second set of them, each with some level of Vault involvement. Starting with ReconnectedUser's Rocky Mountain game, the plot is set a few months after the Great War. The player is in a small town in the middle of nowhere, vaultless, though the town did build things for vault tech, which made it quite the target. It's verging on collapse due to the demands of raiders. The town leader finds a shipment list to the location of a nearby vault and sends the player to find some MacGuffin. Armed with an unnumbered jumpsuit, an incomplete Pip-Boy 3000, and some supplies, the player heads off. They're immediately robbed by the raiders who are threatening the town. Through their adventure, the player faces a level harassment by townsfolk for their vault gear, learns about the fractured military, comes across a series of radioactive craters near a military outpost, and comes in contact with a large city's overran vault hosting factional warfare. After finding the target vault, the player talks to the overseer through an intercom and learns that there's a breach alert locking them out. There's choices for how to gain entry, violence or peace, with different faction involvement. There's also a harder method of overriding the vault from the craters. As for gameplay, the incomplete Pip-Boy allows the player to collect modules, such as the holotape reader. One beginning module is the Geiger counter. Over time, living creatures start to show signs of radiation sickness and mutation. The player can choose to become a ghoul, hiding it from the people with a helmet. Otherwise, they face discrimination, which includes raised prices and the inability to speak with certain NPCs. Specific quests will offset the issue. Better weapon customization for pipe weapons, revamped perk with skills returning, mutations from 76 with visual representation, the ability to create armor sets and equip it all at once, different currencies, and better barding. Also, no more hacking minigames. So in my opinion, I like this game sets itself away from some of the typical Fallout elements, such as the Brotherhood of Steel and Super Mutants, and has you collecting the Pip-Boy modules, slowly unlocking the features. And the ability to play a ghoul with discrimination is a nice touch, though having it be a perk feels a bit off. I would almost like it to be more of something that happens over time, but players might prefer it be a binary choice with a definite on switch, rather than it sneaking up on them. Next, we'll discuss ETL TTC's Seattle-based game. The player takes the role of a leader of a tribe that has a tradition of making their leaders wear a stitched-together vault suit and a crude Pip-Boy that's so old its non-intrusive vital sensors have been long worn out. So they have to graft the system into the flesh and bone of their leader. And during their leadership, an unusually high number of psyker children have been born with tangible powers such as telekinesis and pyromancy. Also, the weather seems to get a bit chaotic when all the psyker kids are together. There are a number of factions interested in them, ranging from established ones to fairly unique ones. The various groups are either trying to kill the psychers or take them for their own goals. The player has a choice which faction gets them or how the tribe deal with them themselves. The answer for what is going on may lie in their original vault. As for gameplay, ETL TTC would like the base building mechanic to return with increased depth. The player can assign tribesmen to certain tasks such as attacking locations or researching. There be swimming, boating, and mount riding. Clear tunnels become fast travel points, and the player can access crazy cybernetics with physical representation, but such might impact faction relationship as well as influence the culture of the tribe. They'd also get rid of the standard HP system in favor of limb and organ vitality that relies heavily on scarce stim packs. Miniguns return, but pre-war weaponry is falling apart. Though some factions have their own forges, so it's a good idea to get on positive terms with them. So I do generally enjoy the premise of this. The plot is interesting, the desires of the factions make sense, and you could totally go for a tribal prophecy type thing. I do really love the cybernetic system since I feel that cybernetics should impact your looks. And the more evolved faction/tribal system is a nice touch, but I question if the organ system strays a little too far away from Fallout's roots. Finally, Scott 0148's North Carolina game. The player is a vault overseer that has to establish a foothold to keep their people safe. They end up meeting local factions struggling to survive from raiders, ghouls, enclave raiding parties, and other dangerous creatures. The player ends up meeting Enclave remnants with the Brotherhood chasing them. The player can choose to work with the desperate Enclave remnants, the Brotherhood, local factions, or go independent without any other faction support. Scott says the gameplay loop would be clearing out hostiles, rebuilding the wasteland by settlements, while sending out salvaging and defense teams. Systems would be in place to allow the development of relatively safe travel and trade routes to all settlements, which can be used to get around when playing without fast travel, aka survival mode. Basically, taming the waste. The general gameplay loop sounds pretty interesting, actively trying to build a civilization out of the wild wastelands. I do question if the overarching Brotherhood and Enclave stories actually help the theme much, but only because I feel that a highly technical military group seems a bit antithetical to the idea of said wild wasteland. But not everybody will agree with that assessment. Anyway, that was 3 more fan dream game ideas from the 2024 survey. Be on the lookout for the next set. And a special thanks to my channel members, especially my members, TwiceOver members, like That Crazy Game Developer and Danny McPhee. If you'd like to support me and join as well, I'd be more than happy. Otherwise, like, share, subscribe, all that typical YouTube stuff. Thank you. Have a good one.